We all know, man, that big bad Uncle Dana definitely has some favoritism. Like, there's clearly some certain directions that the UFC wants to go when they're trying to push big stars or make big stars or have certain guys get a little bit too many title shots or kind of an easier route to the fucking belt. We've seen it time and time again. Uncle Dana has his favorites. He has people that he wants to turn into stars. And today, going through flyweight through heavyweight, one per division, I'm picking somebody who I think the UFC and Big Dana White wants to have as their ideal champion for 2025. Just starting off in the flyweight division, you know we gotta do Brandon Moreno, alright? And it's a division that really struggles with, obviously they're the smaller guys, so it's kind of hard to market them, especially to more like casually based fans, but like Brandon Moreno is definitely one of the most marketable stars they got, or definitely is the biggest star. I mean, maybe you could say Pantoja since he's been champ for a while, but I feel like Moreno, regardless, even without the belt on him, is one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest star, that flyweight kind of has to offer right now. I mean, especially for the Mexican market. I mean, you have guys like Yair Rodriguez for featherweight. You got Alexa Grasso. They made the custom belt and all that bullshit. But it's like Moreno, I feel like just gives the most numbers despite that. And it's like these guys like Rodriguez or Grasso, like they don't even have the most outwards personalities there is, or like they're not the most active fighters, especially for Rodriguez. Well, Grasso as well. You know, I feel like Moreno is the one who he's got an entertaining fight style, likes to keep his fights on the feet. He's a good striker, a great striker even, who has championship experience. He's got the whole wholesome, you know, Lego building stick personality, and everybody fucking loves it. And it's just like when you look at how he represents his country, when you look at how they want this guy to be the headliners for their Mexico City or just Mexico card events in general, Noche UFC or whatever the fuck, like I feel like this is their guy. And the only other kind of marketable thing, you know, again, besides Pantoja, who is the champion right now and is gaining a lot of credibility just by, you know, going and putting on great performances or really good fights time and time again, but like Moreno's gonna be there. Other than that, you have Cop, who's a guy who, you know, he's marketable as fuck as well, you know? He's a guy who, Manel Cop, he's an amazing striker with a really fun style, but he knows how to talk his shit. That's the really kind of biggest difference maker for a guy like Cop, to have him in the division. Like, he talks a bunch of shit, and he knows how to back it up, man. Puts on exciting performances, and we just, obviously, he's coming off the last one where he saw a bunch of Ultra Instinct, and he just fucking schooled him. Bruno Silva's poor ass, but it's like, the reason why I didn't put Cop on here is because I feel like Cop can kind of stir the pot a bit much, or he's not that much. I feel like the UFC doesn't look at him as someone as like reliable or more of like a company man as like Moreno, but I feel like Cop would be really good to have as a division, as a champion for the division. Sorry, but I just feel like the UFC might not be as crazy about it, or there's less marketing ability or money to come in from having Cop. Like, Cop is going to be able to sell fights. He talks his shit and he has a fun style, but like Moreno, just, he has a whole fucking country behind him. Not that Cop doesn't, but you know what I'm saying. So Moreno is clearly their guy. They love having this guy be the main event, and obviously if the belt goes back to him, like, they love putting this guy in all these fight night slots or pay-per-view slots or trying to give him title shots whenever they can. Unfortunately right now, because he had the whole quadrilogy with fucking Figgy, and then now he's already lost 2 or 3 times to Pantoja, it's like he's kind of having to go back and play like the Holloway or Whitaker route, where he's kind of just, you know, beating all the guys outside the rankings who are kind of like, they're putting Moreno in front of him if you want a shot at the belt. He's kind of taking that role. So the UFC and Dana motherfucking White, they would love to have this guy as the champion, and maybe it'll happen one day. Moreno's still only like 30 or 31. I could totally see him regaining the belt, but it's like with guys like Pantoja right now who are on top, and again Moreno's already lost a couple times, I don't know how soon it's gonna happen, but it definitely is possible. Dana wants it. There's big money with Moreno. So moving on up next to the Bantamweight division, you already fucking know it's Sean O'Malley, right? You already know that the UFC wants this guy. I'm finally starting to think that they're not just gonna do Morab versus O'Malley too, which thank God, it made no sense. There's a lot of winnable fights for O'Malley in the bantamweight rankings, and it's like all he had to do was give him one win over Figgy or Sanhagen, who would both be good fights, or even a Cejudo if he wasn't booked against Yadong, even O'Malley versus Song Yadong, like just a little bit of something. I'd rather even see O'Malley versus Rob Font, just giving him a fight before they just give him the fucking title shot. And again, I'm hearing that Marab versus Jan 2 is in the works for like May or June, and that'd be great. Jan versus O'Malley, I feel like would have been the move to just finally really determine a true number one contender. There's arguments for both, but O'Malley just needs that one fucking win, and to be able to, you know, really, he already beat Jan the first time, but it's like it was very, very close. Some people had it for Jan, a lot of people fucking had it for Jan, but some people had it for O'Malley. It kind of just depends on how you really want to score that first round, but it's like having them go at it for 5 rounds to determine the number one contender, you know, and 5 rounds is a bit more Jan's element. But O'Malley, we saw it against Cheeto, and even against Marab, he won the 5th round, which is knowing Marab's style and how his infinite gas tag makes no sense. Like, you would think that that'd be where Marab shines the fucking brightest, and usually he does, but against against O'Malley, man, O'Malley had his moments in that fight, and it was a 5-rounder. And if you thought that O'Malley versus Merab was going to be a 5-rounder, you would have assumed Merab 50-44'd him or some shit. But O'Malley kind of relatively hung in there. He still got whooped. He still clearly kind of lost the fight, but it's something, you know. O'Malley has 5-round experience. I feel like what you should do is just have him face Jan or have him face Sandhagen. Those are both great fights, or just give Jan the title shot, whatever the fuck. But O'Malley's the guy they want to have as champion, is my point. Like, they're going to try and do what they can to give this guy the title shot as soon as he can. Maybe like an Adesanya-esque scenario or something like that. O'Malley brings in such a market for them of kind of like what? Like the 15-year-old to like 25-year-old just range, or like the people that are listening to this certain podcast or drinking this certain drink. All right, he's like the Logan Paul to WWE, but for the UFC in a way. Maybe I'm shitting, I don't know. But O'Malley has amazing skills. He's one of the best strikers pound for pound in the UFC. His takedown defense and defensive grappling is there. It just, unfortunately, he's going against guys like Merab, but the skill set of O'Malley is there. I think just going off his skill set alone, he's very underrated. And I get it's easy to just shit on the guy when you look at the clown colored hair and bit skinny for the division and shit like that. But it's like O'Malley's really fucking good at striking. He's really good at fighting. He's got good fight IQ in there as well. He has a lot of good tools in the arsenal. You know, he's going to want to stand and bang. He's very precise and has really good timing, good head movement and footwork. Like an amazing striker. He's going to want to keep his fights on the feet. But like the dude knows how to fucking scrap, man. And again, I think he beats most of the guys in the rankings. I think that Umar and Merab would give him a lot of problems and they'd probably beat him. But it's, well, one of them already did. But it's like, I could see him beating Jan or Figgy or Sandhagen or Cejudo, whoever the fuck, like 5 rounds or not. Like O'Malley has a really good chance. So I just hope we get to see him actually face that kind of competition before they just give him a Rob again, because it's like the first fight didn't even do that well. Like, not do that well. I'm sure the numbers were fantastic, especially the fact that it was at the fucking Sphere. But it's like the fight was boring and O'Malley could use a bit of hype. And again, there's a lot of winnable fights for him. And I feel like people aren't going to complain about him, oh, he's ducking this or blah, blah, blah. Just give him one fight, all right? Like, he's very marketable, and I do question those sometimes. Like, for as much as UFC wants O'Malley to be champ, you know, he knows how to talk. He doesn't really know how to talk too much shit. Honestly, he kind of is lackluster when it comes to that kind of shit, but it's like, for whatever reason it may be, for if it's like the audience that he appeals to, or if it's, you know, the bright color, whatever the fuck, or he knows how to talk his own on the mic. Like, listen, I don't think he's that great of a shit talker. He's that great at, like, selling fights, but it's better than just kind of some neutral NPC something. Like, at least the dude is putting forward that effort and has enough skills on the mic to do fucking something. And again, when it comes to just his fights, like, they're relatively, most of them are entertaining, man. They're some kind of display. So the UFC wants this guy to be their champion. He has a clear audience that they're trying to bring in. And it's weird though, it's like a double-edged sword with O'Malley. I feel like a lot of O'Malley fans are more so kind of based, and let me know if I'm wrong, Chad, I'm sorry, but like they're more so based towards like the casual side of things. Like, and I feel like that's their whole point. That's how you have guys like John Jones or Sean O'Malley or Alex Pereira. Like, the big stars usually bring in kind of like that casual fan base. Like, I don't really have a lot of friends that are watching MMA, but the ones that are kind of casually watching it or watch the big cards, like, they all enjoy O'Malley or they like O'Malley or he's one of the main ones they know. You know what I mean? So it's like he has that kind of factor, like, oh, it's an O'Malley card. Like, we got to kind of hype it up, or we want this guy to bring in the numbers and that kind of fan base. So they want O'Malley as champion, man. He's good for the division as champ. He really is. Like, I like that Merab is proving everybody wrong and he just reached Bantamweight fucking GOAT status. And I feel like he's going to be an active champion while he's still in, you know, not 35 and beyond yet. So I think that Merab, while I think he's going to be a good champion to have, I think that O'Malley probably relatively is better for the division and just selling things as a whole. But it's like, I'm not gonna fucking complain, man. O'Malley could easily make his way back to the belt. All I'm asking is that hopefully we could see him kind of face just somebody first, all right? Give him a Sandhagen, bro. It's a great fight and everybody's asking for it. So O'Malley, they clearly have their reasons for pushing this guy, and they're gonna do whatever the fuck they can to make sure he is champion or becomes champion as soon as possible or for as long as possible. So moving on up next to the featherweight division here. I mean, this one is somebody who is one of two people that are already champions on this list, and it's going to be Ilia Topuria, because you know what? I'm sure that they appreciated Volk. He brought in that Australian kind of market, and he was a really active champion. And then you have guys like Lopez who are young and explosive. But listen, you could say the same fucking thing about Topuria. Topuria is bringing in two whole nations. You know, you have a lot of Georgian fighters that are on the rise right now or are doing really well, most notably Merab and Topuria. But it's like, then he also has Spain. Like, UFC would not be going to Spain if it wasn't for Topuria. Topuria. Ilia Topuria, mate. Like, I know you have guys like Joel Alvarez, but they wouldn't bring a fight night just for him or a pay-per-view or some shit like that. And he's, Joel Alvarez, besides Topuria, is kind of Spain's biggest prospect, and he's just kind of now starting to build up some hype, and now he's going to get bigger matchups. I think him versus BSD is in the works or something like that. And they're trying to elevate him, and that's great. Like, the Spanish market and the Spanish talent can finally start being tapped, but Topuria is just completely leading the fucking gates for them. So he brings in a lot of viewers and a lot of attention for that whole area, and so that obviously the UFC is gonna love that. But the thing with Topuria is that he's young, he's flashy, he knows how to talk his shit, but he knows how to back it up. He's on just an amazing pound for pound rise right now. He's one of the most well-rounded fighters in the UFC. Came in as a submission artist, and now all of a sudden he's one of the best strikers that we fucking got right now, and he's knocking out all of the goddamn fan favorites. He's like the perfect kind of heel to have for the UFC right now. And it's not like a John Jones kind of, I don't know why I said his name like that, John Jones, but I don't know why John Jones, he's like a different kind of heel. Like, he's a guy who's genuinely just doing bad shit, or is a bad fucking person, or is just pissing off people in the wrong way. Like, no, I'm not going to face the interim champ for a year and a half, or some crazy shit like that, or just the antics of hitting pregnant ladies with cars and running the fuck away, and then it's just like all the crazy shit, popping all the tests. That's a bad kind of heel. The heel that Topuria is that he goes in there, talks a bunch of shit to your favorite fighters, and then knocks them out, and then there's nothing you can fucking do about it except wait for the next guy or tune into the next pay-per-view to try and do it again. And it's like, Topuria is young, he has a whole 2 countries that are completely behind him, and even for someone like the United States or the UK or whatever the fuck, like, Topuria is becoming a bigger and bigger name. He has an entertaining fight style, he's extremely well-rounded, he's young and relatively active. Like, the fact that he's only 27 and we're already talking about him as highly as we do, in this high of regards, or whether it's us or the UFC, like, we're all praising Topuria for the most part. And the fact that he's only 27, man, it's like the Conor McGregor that they almost had, you know what I mean? And McGregor did fucking amazing things for the sport, and he kind of just, we're kind of witnessing the downfall of it all right now. But they have another chance, and it comes in a Spanish form, and it is Ilia Topuria, and you want to tune in for a Topuria fight for whatever reason it may be. He's knocking out your fan favorites, or he's talking his shit, and you want to see his ass get knocked out, or you want to see him get closer and closer to GOAT status because he's building up a resume really, really fucking fast, and he's only like 8-0 or 27, so I think he might be 28 now. But still, man, like, Topuria is the kind of guy that they want to have as champion. Like, they don't want Evloev as champ, they don't want, they probably would want Lopez as champ, but I do feel like Topuria is just their ideal guy. They've already had the Volk era, and Volk was great while he was champ, entertaining title run, and he was active as shit, but it's like Topuria, I feel like it's just, he has a lot of boxes that the UFC and Uncle Dana want to check off, and when looking for someone or qualities to have in a champ, you know what I mean? Especially carrying a division like Featherweight's very, very talented, but it doesn't really have a lot of brash or outgoing or a lot of outward loud personalities for it, you know what I mean? It's a lot of really skilled guys who just, they just really don't talk that too much shit. They kind of just let their actions speak louder than their words, and that's totally fucking fine. But I feel like that's why it's good for the division to have like a guy like Topuria leading the way to kind of balance it out, you know what I mean? So Uncle Dana fucking appreciates it, I'm sure. So moving on, up next to the lightweight division here, I originally had Islam Makhachev, man. Like, Makhachev was going to be my original pick, and I'm sure that him and the UFC have a great relationship, especially with him and Dana. Uncle Dana and Khabib going out to a lot of fucking dinners. So we all know that Uncle Dana and Khabib are on good fucking terms, and hence I think Makhachev is as well. Like, Makhachev, though, he's great for his own market that he brings in. The whole Dagestani region, the whole Caucasus region, like, Makhachev's a huge draw there. You hear these stories from DC or all these other guys that are around Makhachev on a daily basis, not a daily basis, but a lot of the time, and they say that the motherfucker has to stay up in the mountains because he can't even come down to the cities or the towns because he just gets overloaded with attention. Like, he's a huge star there, and on top of that, Makhachev already became the lightweight GOAT. He's just getting closer and closer to just general GOAT status. So it's like, Makhachev, UFC would love to have him as champ, or does love to have him as champ, I'm sure. But when I'm picking who Uncle Dana specifically, in a perfect world, who they would want to have as their champ, right? I think it would be Dustin Poirier. Like I said, I wasn't originally going to have him here, but when I really fucking thought about it, like, Poirier, if they could have him as champion, let's just say that the defensive grappling was a bit better. Obviously, he looked amazing in that regard against Makhachev when they fought, but it's like, he fought against Khabib and he got finished. He fought against Oliveira and he got finished. Fought against Makhachev, put on a fucking war. It was his closest attempt, yeah, but he got finished, man. But it's like, if Poirier could have just won one of those times, or was able to get a couple defenses in, like, the United States, or just I feel like everybody universally, like there's a lot of Dustin Poirier fans. I know that all the sore winner shit, but at the end of the day, he's very fucking beloved, especially in the States, and he's one of the greatest fighters of all time to never win a belt. So the UFC, I'm sure they would have been happy as shit to have him complete that storyline, some Cody Rhodes shit, and he's fucking finishing the story, and he's beating Makhachev at the end to retire or defend it. Like the UFC in general, I feel like any time in the past few years, they would have loved to have Poirier as champion, just because the dude, like, he has a really big fan base, and especially in the States. And you know, Poirier, man, not as much nowadays, but again, he's getting older and older in age, closer and closer to Unk status, so it's like, I can't really blame the dude, and now he's looking for a retirement fight. And all due respect, we're all on board for the Dustin Poirier retirement story, but you can't tell me that anytime in the past few years, as Dustin Poirier has been becoming as big as he was, I mean, really, anytime after the McGregor, you know, the second or third time that they fought, like anytime after that, I feel like the Uncle Dana is gonna have the hard eyes, the Looney Tunes dollar sign eyes, like anytime he sees Dustin Poirier. He knows that, especially for the lightweight division, he's one of the biggest stars, or just in general, he's one of the biggest stars that the UFC has to offer. So clearly, when you put the championship on the line for every time the guy fights, it's just gonna be a bigger and bigger event. Like Poirier is already a big enough deal as he is, and he's someone who keeps repetitively losing the title shots. I sound disrespectful as fuck. I hope you all know what I'm saying. Like, but he's already that much of a star now. Imagine if the UFC had him as champion, you know? So I feel like Uncle Dana would be loving that shit. It seems like him and Poirier have a great relationship, and just Poirier back in the day, man, people forget, man, but relatively active as shit, facing top names, wasn't really fucking scared of anyone. People used to say BSD was the boogeyman, and Poirier needs to step down and try and give the young up-and-comers a chance, and then he went and knocked his ass out. And then, but it's also at the same time, Poirier would fight anyone, anywhere. He has an amazing resume, and he's one of their biggest stars. So Uncle Dana would love to have him as lightweight champion, but unfortunately, it's just when you're going against the death row of lightweight champions and some of the best to ever do it, you're facing Khabib, and then you're facing Charles Oliveira, then they're giving you Makhachev. Like, Poirier's had nothing but unfortunate luck, man. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Moving on, up next to the welterweight division. A little curveball here, but honestly, I'm going to be going with Joaquin Buckley. And I don't even think Dana realizes he wants Buckley as champion yet. Like, this is the same Dana where when Buckley's showing up at the 300 press conference, he's like, yo, give me a main event. I want to be there for the St. Louis card. I want to be the main. And Dana just said, good night, everybody, and just moved the fuck on. Like, I don't think they have some amazing relationship where they're really trying to push Buckley to stardom. Like, he hasn't even been on a pay-per-view main card yet. Now, granted, I know a lot of his success and a lot of the momentum gained all came from in the past year, so there hasn't been too much time, but it's like, Buckley is a guy who very well rounded in the cage. He can stand and bang. He really picks it up in that third round and beyond. He has good wrestling. He has good striking. He knows how to get finishes as well. Like, yeah, he's got his fair share of decisions, but like, he kind of does hunt for that finish kind of the longer the fight goes. There's a sense of urgency, and you see that less and less with fighters nowadays. So the dude clearly wants to, whenever he fights, puts on a fucking statement. He's active as shit. We all know that. He fought like 4 times, went 4-0 last year, completely put himself on the map, and he knows how to sell a fight. Like, he talks his shit on the mic, and you know what? Sometimes it's a bit cringe, all right? Sometimes it hurts. I'm not talking Cejudo cringe, but like the Conor McGregor call out, all that bullshit and shit like that, like the little beefing with DC. Like, there's moments with Buckley where you're kind of like listening to him and you want to be a fan, but you're like, why did he just say what he fucking said? But when you look at just the star potential, like, I'm not saying this guy could be like a Makhachev or a Taporia or a Pereira or whatever the fuck, but like, there is a lot of potential for Buckley, and I think that him as champion would be really good for the division. It's somebody who fights any contender. He stays fucking active, and again, now that he's facing higher competition, it might be a little bit less, but what's a little bit less? Like, still 2 or 3 times a year, there are some motherfuckers that are clinging on to top 5 or top 10 spots, and they fight once a year, if not that at all. So it's like, Buckley is a fresh of breath air. He wants to get the unks out of the division. He wants to be active. He wants to take on all contenders. He talks his shit, and he wants to sell the fight, and he's looking for finishes. So he puts on a high pace in there, man, and I feel like it's kind of everything on paper that you would want in a champion. I just feel like the things that hold him back sometimes, you know, might do it a bit too much on the mic, or maybe as of right now, he's not like the biggest name you can get a lot of drawing numbers off of, but it's like, there's so much potential there, and I think Buckley's going to have a great 2025. I feel like he's going to go. He has a really good chance of beating Usman, and I think even he has a really good chance of beating guys like Shavkat, JDM, or even the champ Bilal. Like, hey, you know, Buckley, you know, you got to get in the back of the line. I'm going to be the next go to the welterweight division. I'm going to be the next GSP. I'm taking out Shavkat, and then I'm coming for you. Khabib's sitting on my back, and we're doing push-ups in the gym till 6 a.m. You know, I can go all day. So Bilal versus Buckley, even then, like, I could see Buckley beating Bilal, man. Like, I like the dude's personality. I like that he puts forward the effort inside the cage and entertain the fans, but also get fucking wins. So I don't even think that Uncle Dana realizes the potential here, but I think that the UFC would appreciate having a guy like Buckley as champion, whether they realize it right now or not. The next couple years we're going to find out a lot about him. So moving on up next to the middleweight division. This one obviously kind of obvious here, but Khamzat Chimaev, man. Like, we all know that from the second that Khamzat was knocking out GM3 in 20 seconds in the goddamn Apex, that like they wanted Chimaev as champion, man. Like, we all know this. He does get Dana White privilege. He gets rewarded for being inactive. Like, granted, when he does fight, it's entertaining, and when he does fight, he gets good wins, like the war over Burns, and then, you know, the Kevin Holland win. It's someone to have on your resume, but like we all know the back-to-back wins over Kamaru Usman, who Usman, I thought the fight was a draw, but whatever, the dude got a win. Chimaev, that is, unfortunately for Usman, but like having back-to-back wins over Usman and Whitaker, especially when you take out Whitaker as efficiently and dominantly as you did, when like I thought, I was one of those motherfuckers that thought that Whitaker was going to 49-46 him, so I ate dirt on that one. But it's like, Khamzat Chimaev, man, like I think personally the division's cooked if he does become champion. Like, I feel like we're just going to have to keep seeing him fight once a year, like the middleweight strap, that once a year. And what if it's only in Abu Dhabi, y'all? And even then, like Chimaev, man, like what if he gets sick, or what if he does have to pull out? Like, we're gonna have to see like 4 interim title fights for the middleweight division going on in the next few years. So I'm rooting for DDP when they fight. I made a video about it, but I think that DDP is gonna be beating him. But either way, like I get why Chimaev, they really want this guy to become champ, because especially for the region, the Dagestani region and all that shit, just to oversell the Abu Dhabi cards and shit like that. Like, he's huge over there. And even then, in the United States, like he's already one of the biggest stars that the UFC has, and that's with him only being around for 5 years and fighting like once a year for the past 3 of those. You know what I mean? So I think the biggest thing that holds Chimaev back is the illnesses and the sicknesses and just the inactivity, man. I feel like that's definitely his biggest weakness, because if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the pullouts or the injuries or whatever the fuck, dude, I feel like he could have been champion by now, or have just had a lot more fights, or have just been a lot more. There wouldn't be an argument for Imavov deserving the title shot more than him. And while I do think I want to see DDP versus Chimaev next, I think that's the right fight to make. The fact that there's an argument right now, if Chimaev actually fought more and got a little bit less of the privilege, I feel like there wouldn't be as much of an argument. For as good as Imavov is, as much as the dude does deserve it, he's doing all the right steps to get to the title, or at least the title shot. Like, Chimaev, man, he's just such a big draw, especially for that whole Abu Dhabi, you know, the Dagestani region and all that shit. The dude puts on entertaining fights. He's absolutely relentless, aggressive, and explosive. I know now we're seeing him in like his very wise father days, like, you know, I used to want to kill everybody, but now I open up local pottery barn. No more killing everybody. I am humble father now. But then he goes in the cage and he's sprinting all to the cage, and he wants to just he either wants to beat your head off or squeeze your head off. So Chimaev, man, when it comes to just the abilities in the cage, he's one of the best grapplers the UFC's ever fucking seen. He puts on entertaining fights, and he is a draw. So there's all the reasons in the world for why UFC wants him to become champ. I just think the division might be cooked if he does, man. Like, it's just the dude is inactive and he pulls out. He's not very reliable. So we're gonna have to see. I think numbers wise he would do fucking wonders, but just getting him in the cage might be a battle, bro. But we'll fucking see. Him versus DDP's up next, so the UFC could have their wish. Moving on up next here to the light heavyweight division. Now, I kind of already said this for Topuria. I said there's 1 to 2 champions already on the list who already do have the strap, and Alex Pereira is another one, man. Like, they don't want Big Ang to be champ. They'd be fine with Prohashka being champ, but I feel like they'd clearly, like, Pereira is their guy. They don't want to have the Rakic's or the Khalil Roundtrees, the Nikita Krylovs, even a guy like Blachowicz. Like, Pereira, man, it explains itself. Like, he's a massive draw. The fact that he even just really started taking off, or his big definitive year, was last year, and we're already talking about this guy, like, oh, he's gonna be so missed when he's gone, or he's already in the top 10 fighters of all fucking time. And to think that last year, 2024, was his big breakout year alone, it's absolutely insane. And if he goes and he defeats Big Ang, it's gonna do wonders for his, not only just his name, but his resume, and just getting closer to that GOAT status, or especially the divisional GOAT status. Well, it's hard to, because he's with Jones and DC, who are some of the best to ever fucking do it. It's tough luck that way. But Pereira, man, he's building a great legacy for himself. He doesn't even speak fucking English, and he's one of just the biggest stars, man. He's a huge draw, not only for the casual fan base, whether you're a hardcore or a poetard or a casual, like, it doesn't matter. We all all know Pereira. Most of us really like the dude because he's active as fuck, puts on exciting fights, and I would say taking on all comers, but like it's been kind of a rocky road with allegations of ducking Ankalaev, but now they're over. He's fighting them. It's going on in I think less than a month, and it's going to be a huge fight. And if Pereira is able to beat Ankalaev, it's just going to do insane things for just his name and his resume and his legacy. It's a massive fight for him, and I just feel like there's nobody else that the UFC would kind of rather have for a guy to represent their division, especially one like light heavyweight, who there's a lot of complaints about it being one of the most shallow divisions and one of the most talentless. Granted, the guys that are really good in that division, they're really fucking good, and there are some decent amount of intriguing matchups of really good guys, but light heavyweight, it is just, like I said, one of the more shallow divisions. And to have a guy like Pereira who's making it relevant again, and he's like saving the division a bit by just fighting all the time, and he's putting guys like Roundtree on the map and making guys like Prochazka a bigger name, or Ankalaev. Like Pereira, just by being in the cage with him or having that pay-per-view slot, like he's making other stars just by facing him. So Pereira's great for the division. He's active as fuck, doesn't even speak English, but he has one of like the biggest fan bases. Say whatever you want about him, all right? A lot of them, it can be pretty annoying and shit, like, oh, Pereira's gonna knock out Jones and Aspinall in one round. Like, still, the Pereira fans, they could be fucking wild, but at the end of the day, he brings in huge numbers. He's great for the division he's in specifically, and he's good. The Uncle Dana, man, they have a good relationship. Pereira's reliable. He's on vacations and shit, and the UFC can give him a call and be like, Pereira, we need you to step in, and he's willing to go and step in. So he's a company man, and he's looking to take heads off, and at the end of the day, Uncle Dana couldn't ask for anything more than that. So moving on to the last division we got here, heavyweight, it's Ciryl Gane. Now, I'm sure that Dana White would love to have a guy like Aspinall as champ, dude. Shortest average fight time. He'd set a bunch of fucking records. Wants to be active at least, and especially for the UK, he's a big draw. But it's like, Dana didn't seem too persistent on pushing Tom. It was very fucking weird. Like, for the whole Jones build-up, especially like after 309, when we were really starting to take Jones versus Aspinall seriously, Dana just seemed to not really talk about Tom at all. Like, he'd literally begin interview questions like, what do you think about Tom Aspinall? And Dana would be like, John Jones is the pound for pound number one. John Jones is the GOAT, dude. I don't think he has any problems with Tom. I mean, he paid him that fucking 200 or 300K just to sit at 309 in the bar or in the crowd and have a fucking beer or two. But I feel like they have a good relationship. I don't think Dana has problems with him. Aspinall's a chill fucking dude. But clearly, I just think that they would want, if they don't want John Jones, I'm not even counting John Jones as part of the goddamn roster. I feel like he's just already retired at this point. I'm sorry, but I'm not. But I feel like Ciryl Gane, man, going back to the Volkov robbery and shit, dude, like shit like that speaks for itself. And Dana's like, yeah, it's a real bummer, kid. Yeah, we're gonna see that. We're gonna give you Jal Almeida next, Volkov, and then you can make your way back. I'm really sorry that happened though. Like, they know what they're fucking doing. Like, when there's robberies like that, man, and coincidentally the big star fucking wins, it's like, really though, really, like, why most of the time is it these big stars? And Ciryl Gane, he fights once a year. He's out here making moves and shit. He's one of those other fighters that I feel like gets a lot of privilege, just kind of gets really just favorable matchups or kind of like quick title shots, or like he gets to fight in front of the home crowd a lot. And I get that he's a massive draw there. It's part of why the UFC fucking loves him so much and is pushing for him, and he wants him to win so bad because he just is France's biggest star. Like, you have BSD, that experiment flopped, and you have a guy like Imavov who's on a tear right now and is being active and taking out a lot of contenders. But Gane just kind of has like that movie star fucking factor, I guess, or just has that bigger personality, a lot more of a bigger name. Imavov doesn't really have too much of a presence on the mic and shit like that, so maybe that's why. But at least Imavov is out here fighting a lot and fighting frequently. But Gane, man, he's just out here making movies and shit, and I don't think he's too passionate about the game itself. And it's unfortunate because when you look at just the potential for him and the talent he does have, he's an amazing volume striker, and it's just like, Gane, he's a good fit heavyweight. I was going to say explosive. He's not, but he's very technical in there. He moves like a fucking middleweight. Great striker, but it's like you just get to see him fight once a year. And whenever he's in the States, he ends up fucking losing. And when he's ever in front of France, he's facing like guys like Sergey Spivak and shit. And it's just like UFC wants this guy to become champion. I think him being champ would be bad for the division, but he just has a lot of marketability for that French crowd, and Dana wants to sink his fucking teeth in it. So I feel like Ciryl Gane is the guy, clearly. And again, it goes back to the Volkov robbery. Like, there's reason reasons why that kind of bullshit happened. And for Dana, man, it's just cha-ching. So Cyril Gane is probably the pick for that one. But yeah, that's going to be it for who I think from every single division Dana White, Uncle Dana, would have as his ideal champion. So let me know who you guys' picks should be in the comment below for this. Who do you guys think Dana would want to have as his ideal champ? And just in general, let me know your thoughts on the video. All the Smoke MMA. I'd really appreciate it if y'all could help me get to 1,000 subscribers. But regardless, thanks so much for making this far in the video, for just tuning in, for being here. Let's just talk some MMA. All the Smoke here. Appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you so very much for watching. Appreciate it, and I will see you all next time.